Hi. So this is going to be my final video of 2016, and it's a movie review. So we're pretty good. As a matter of fact, it's two movies we're reviewing. I'm going to do a review of Rogue One, and then I'm going to do a review of the movie Sing. So I saw them both, one day apart after Christmas, and there's this little freaky thing that kind of ties them together in a very weird way. I'm just saying that. So I'm going to basically talk about the movies. I'm not going to give away any spoilers. At least I hope. You know what? There's going to be a spoiler. I already know there's going to be one spoiler, but I can't help it. And that's just how it's going to be. So I'm going to talk about Rogue One first, because I saw this at a cool movie theater that's new to the area. It's one of those movie theaters where you sit in a lounge chair and you get to lay back. And at this one, it's also a restaurant. So you can order your food beforehand, and then if you want anything during the movie, you just push a button on your seat and they come to you. I thought this was really cool. I got to admit that. And matinee price is the same as it is at the mall, so I think I'll probably be doing this a few more times in 2017. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, Rogue One basically is the prequel to the very first Star Wars movies that we saw. And if you have to kind of remember how the thing began, where they talked about receiving plans from some people who gave their lives to get them. Well, that's what this story is. These are the people who basically gave their lives to get the plans. And it's really cool. I'm not going to lie. I wasn't necessarily so keyed to go see this movie. I don't know why. Maybe my mind just saw this as really not a Star Wars movie, even though I know it is. And it did start out differently. They didn't have that crawl like we're used to, but it had the feel. And we got there, and it really was very entertaining. It starred this young lady named Felicity Jones, who anyone I mention here, I don't know who these people are outside of this movie, except for Forrest Whitaker. Him I know. Thank goodness. Anyway, Felicity Jones stars as Jyn Erso. And basically, she's a little girl who, you see the TIE fighters coming in, and she comes up running, and it's her father and her mother, and I guess they've been hiding for however long. Anyway, she goes and she, kind of hides herself, and the basic premise here is that the Empire wants her father to come back and work on this super weapon that he didn't want to do. But they kill the mother, and they go looking for the little girl, can't find her, but they take the father off. And the way I kind of see it is they kind of tricked the father into saying, we had the daughter and we will do all this stuff unless you basically work on this weapon. So then she grows up years later. Forrest Whitaker's character is called Saw Gerrera, and he's actually a rebel fighter, but he's not with the rebellion. Hey, that happens. You have factions that want to go off on their own and do their own thing. Anyway, he rescues her, and then you now jump many, many years later. She's an adult. She is basically in prison for doing something bad. She did a lot of bad stuff. And what happens is there's kind of a breakout of all these people. They basically break them out. They don't know who she is. They don't know who anyone else is. They get her to Rebellion headquarters, where they pretty much piece together who they think she is. And, they tell her this whole story that they want to try to get to Saw Gerrera to help them. By the way, I'm pronouncing these things all wrong. You know what? I'm American and I'm black. That's just how it is. Anyway, they want to get him on their side to work with them, or so they tell her, because they figure they have an in, and what's supposed to happen, I guess, is they're supposed to do something to this guy. I don't know. So anyway, they go and see this man, and around the same time they go to see him, they're deciding that they're going to, the bad guys, the Empire, is deciding that they're going to take out a city rather than a planet. And it just happens to be the same city, because everything is a coincidence in the Star Wars, way of things, how they go. Anyway, Jyn Erso goes flying off with a guy who is called Cassian Andor. And he's played by a guy named Diego Luna. And he's got this... he's got this droid, which is really kind of cool. And they call him K2SO. And he's actually an Empire droid who's had his memory wiped. So he's supposed to be an enforcer. He's really big, had his memory wiped, and now he works for the Rebellion, but he's very sarcastic. And truthfully, he's the funniest thing in the movie. Without him, there's not really a whole lot of humor in this movie, but every scene this guy is in, even when it's a tense scene, it's funny stuff. So I saw a couple of reviews before I went saying that this movie had almost no humor in it. Well, it did. It had him. And some of the other interactions aren't so bad either. Anyway, they go there. She finds out that a pilot who was named Bohi Rook, played by a guy named Riz Ahmed, and you know what, we're done with all the other names. Anyway, he's a pilot who flew from the planet where her father had been doing this, creating this weapon to send a message to Saw Gerrera. So she sees the message, it's a hologram, and basically he tells them that he has planted kind of a backdoor way to destroy the Death Star, which we knew about because we saw Star Wars. I'm not giving anything away here. So anyway, he's created one, and the plans are on this particular planet, and she'll know it when she sees it. So they go to the planet. At the same time they're going to the planet, the guy who caught him to begin with and forced him back is trying to take credit for this weapon working, and then he finds out that someone who might have been working with the professor, or this guy, has basically slipped some plans and tried to send him out, so he goes there. So she arrives at the same time this guy arrives. Like I said, there's no coincidences anywhere. And we'll just say mayhem breaks loose. But mayhem breaks loose. She still gets to do what she was supposed to do. One of the coolest characters in this movie is the guy whose name was Chirrut Imwe. Like I said, this is how I pronounce stuff. Anyway, he's a blind warrior. And he's talking about the Force all the time, which makes you think he's a Jedi. I still think he's a Jedi, although they didn't claim he was a Jedi. They said he was a guardian of the Wills. I don't know what that is. I don't know all the, the canon regarding all the Star Wars stuff. So I don't really know a lot of this stuff. Hey, I'm an old guy. Give me a break. Anyway, he's one of the coolest characters in the movie as well, because he's blind. As a matter of fact, one of the funniest things is that they're going to take them somewhere, and they put a thing over his head, and he says, "Are you kidding me? I'm blind." Which is kind of funny. So anyway, it's a very exciting movie. It's a lot more exciting than I thought it was going to be. It was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. It's no wonder it's killing everywhere. And I love Felicity Jones. I mean, my goodness, where are they plucking these young women from who are playing these parts? I loved her. I loved Ray. I just love these things. Okay, I loved her overbite as well. Hey, I'm into overbites. So that movie actually turned out to be pretty cool. And I'm not going to give away the one spoiler thing in there until I do Sing. And Sing I saw the next day. And Sing is basically the story. It's an animated story where a guy is losing his theater, and he decides the way to try to get some publicity and bring it back is to hold a singing contest. And basically he sends out this flyer that ends up going all over the city, but his secretary messes up the number. So first prize, or first place, was supposed to be $1,000, but she makes it $100,000. So now it's basically him trying to figure out how he's going to get the money for it, if he can get the money for it. And all these different characters who try out, some of them are more important than others because we get to find out some of their backstory, their history. And it was kind of interesting. Let's go in this direction. Matthew McConaughey stars as Buster Moon, and Buster Moon is the owner of the theater. And I tell you the truth, if I didn't know beforehand it was going to be Matthew McConaughey, I'd have never guessed, because it doesn't sound anything like him at all. So you have Matthew McConaughey. You have Reese Witherspoon, who's playing basically a female pig. She's the mother of tons, like maybe 20, 25 piglets, and has a husband who doesn't really care about anything that goes on in the family, and she's bored, but she sings. But, they just kind of take her for granted. Then you have Seth MacFarlane. Seth MacFarlane plays a character called Mike. And he's just this crooning mouse. At the beginning of the movie, you see him playing this saxophone, trying to make money, get people. We've seen those folks who are on the street playing instruments, and people throw money in there. So this is him, but he actually sings. And he's basically kind of a crooner, like, Frank Sinatra and other folks like that. And of course, we know that Seth MacFarlane can sing. If you've ever seen Family Guy, you knew that. And if you've seen, some other country movies, we knew Reese Witherspoon can sing because she played June Carter with, I remember who played Johnny Cash. But anyway, she was in that movie. So we knew that she could sing. Then we've got a porcupine. And the character's name is Ash, played by Scarlett Johansson. Now, I didn't know Scarlett Johansson could sing, but I was told that she actually has some kind of album out there. I don't know, but I was told she could sing, and she really did well. And Ash is supposed to be like this teenage punk rock porcupine who is just feeling the music. And she's got this, raggedy boyfriend who thinks he's the talent. And so it turns out that she's really the talent of the show. And she's got this battle between whether she's going to give in to the man, if you will, and play the teeny bop thing, or whether she's going to do this rock thing. Then you have a character who is basically, he's a gorilla. His name is Johnny. And he's played by a guy named Taron Egerton, who I didn't know who he was until I did the research and found out he was the guy in Kingsman: The Secret Service. So that's cool, because I saw that movie and I love that movie. So anyway, he's an actor who turns out that he could sing really well. And so he plays this gorilla who wants to sing, and there you go. But his dad, you call him Big Daddy, is a gang leader. And, they're just criminals. And so the father wants the son to be like him. The son doesn't want to be like him. So there's that bit of angst. And then we have the elephant. And she's just a young elephant. Her name is Mina. And she's played by someone named Tori Kelly, who I didn't know. Had no clue who this was. But it turns out she's kind of popular around the young folks. And she's pretty good, too. Okay, she's very good. Let's just say it. She's very good. And so she plays this elephant who's a singer, but she's very shy. She's so shy that she can't even really sing in front of her own family unless she forgets that they're there. And she's got this grandfather who pushes her into trying out. And I was stunned to find out that was Jay Farrow from Saturday Night Live who played the character of the father. And the mother was Leslie Jones. And Leslie Jones was the character who basically wasn't as out front as the grandfather. So that was cool. And so, you have these characters here, and they, along with a ton of other characters, go and they all try out. And these are the folks who end up in the show. And you have a couple of other characters in here. For instance, you have a character called Gunter. He's kind of this wild pig who thinks he has more talent than he does, but he's more of a dancer with an accent. I couldn't tell you. I think they tried to make it a Scandinavian accent. And he was very funny in this thing, all the different things. It worked out well. They put him with Reese Witherspoon's character, Rosita, because they said she was a very good singer, but she didn't have any pizzazz. They needed to pizzazz her up, so they put her with a partner. And basically, you go through this whole thing where the guy, Moon, is trying to get this show off the ground, trying to hold off to creditors because he owes a lot of people a lot of money, and his studio's falling apart. And he tries a couple of things and ends up basically blowing out his theater. And at the same time, it turns out that the mouse, Mike, has cheated this bear gang in poker. Don't cheat gang people in poker. So they're after him as well, and that's basically what helps to kind of lead to everything just going all haywire. So everything gets busted up, and the characters come back trying to get Moon to do the show. He doesn't want to do the show. And then he decides to kind of start a car wash because that's what his dad did. By the way, this isn't a spoiler because this is in the preview, the trailer. You see him washing a car. Well, this is what leads to that. And then he hears something that just makes him say, you know what, I got to put this show on regardless. And there we go. And I'm going to tell you the truth. I enjoyed Sing a lot more than I enjoyed Rogue One, and I liked Rogue One a lot. This movie took 5 years to make, and some of the criticism I heard about it was, well, this movie's dated. They should have did it 2 or 3 years earlier. You know what? If it takes 5 years to do a movie, they can't be cutting edge all the time. Every movie's not going to be Despicable Me, even though it's made by the same people. This movie was great. The music was great. The people who sang were great. This one guy, it's a guy who plays the female secretary to Moon. And her name is supposed to be Karen Crawley. And she's the chameleon, with the eyes going different directions. So, iguana. And she is hilarious. He, however you go. His name is Garth Jennings, and I didn't know who he was until I researched it and realized it's the guy from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It's just amazing. I don't know who these people's names are, and then they show up, and it's like, oh my God, that's who that is. So it's good stuff. I enjoyed this movie so much, probably because I love music. I knew most of the songs. I can't say I knew them all, but I knew most of the songs in the movie, and it just had more heart, if you ask me. It had more heart and more spirit, and I just go for movies like this. So both of these movies I definitely recommend. By the way, most people would have thought that there would have been tons of kids at the Sing movie since it was animated, and I'm not going to lie, there were kids there, but it was mainly adults. Maybe not people my age, but there were a lot of adults there. It was mainly adults. So, you know, you can say it's for kids, but the music is from my generation. Now, here's the tie-in. The tie-in, it's odd, is this past weekend Carrie Fisher passed away. Well, here's the one spoiler. At the end of this movie, they have Carrie Fisher come back. I mean, the old Carrie Fisher. They did CGI, so they had this character look just like she did in the very first Star Wars movie. Maybe a little bit too perfect, but still. So you had that. And then she passed away the other day. It's like, oh my God, wow, that was just so freaky. Over the weekend, we had, oh goodness, George Michael passed away. And in Sing, all of a sudden you have Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. It's like, ooh, God. Chills for both of them. There's kind of the tie-in. Two people who passed away this weekend were, in essence, in both of these movies. That's just freaky. So, anyway, like I said, this has turned out to be long because I did two movies, but there you go. I hope you go see both of them. I really enjoyed them. I had a good time. Like I said, I enjoyed Sing more just probably because of the music thing, and it's amazing seeing all these actors who can sing. And by the way, there's this song called Hallelujah, who was written by a guy named Leonard Cohen, who I didn't know him at all, except it turns out he wrote this song Hallelujah, which I did know, and Tori Kelly sings it in the movie. And there's a video on YouTube where she's singing that song along with Jennifer Hudson, who has a minor part in the beginning of the movie and at the end of the movie. That's all I'm saying. So there you go. Anyway, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of this year. I'm so glad this year is over. I'm sorry I had to throw that in there. I hope we all have a wonderful 2017. And please go see these movies. You will enjoy yourself a lot. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I wish you the best. Y'all take care.